Good afternoon to you. It is Wednesday, August 7th at 2:46 p.m. Time for a little QuickCast practice report straight from the horse's mouth, straight from Coach Walters, straight from listening to some of the post-practice interviews, my thoughts, the things that have stood out to me. Most of them are straight from Walters, though. That's the big thing. I was trying to get the best possible source. Also watched some highlights of practice that I don't know if I can glean much from them, but I'm going to give you my thoughts in a succinct way. And if you don't like gleaning all this stuff and going over the videos, this is a good place for you to just hear somebody else's opinion. Appreciate you tuning in. Before I dig into the football practice report, let me thank the good folks at Home Field Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. I think today, in fact, today, I know they've got a release of the Purdue Platinum Pack. And this is a pack of products they put together that I think they're all new, that you can order. And I think they're exclusives to the Platinum Pack. Check it out. Look at Home Field's Twitter feed for more information. Interboiled23 at checkout for 15% off. I think I've got to get a new code though. And so I had to call, or I got to talk to the people at Home Field to get that updated. But right now I think it still works. Also, we are getting close to heading to campus for different things. I'm going up there on Monday to help my son move into to his new room on campus. And when on campus, what I like to do when I'm there, I like to go towards the fire station, then go right in and yell "boiled" at AJ's. If you go there, you'll get some tremendous food. You'll get a super nice staff that knows what they're doing. They'll get stuff out way quicker than you think is humanly possible. And they'll have TVs on the wall that you can watch your favorite. Maybe it's Olympics as that gets down to closing, and then it'll be football and basketball as the fall rolls around. EatAJs.com if you want to order ahead. Burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. So lots of stuff to talk about, though, from just what Coach Walters has to say. If you look at nothing else, if you want to look at no other source, I think going to the head coach is a good one. A lot of the interviews are kind of fluffy, especially after practice. Maybe you've watched some and you're like, I don't think I learned a thing. And that's how I feel many times. But Coach Walters was a little bit different. And some of the things that he said that I took note of, I'll go through them point by point. There are some injuries so far in camp. He called them minor injuries, football type injuries, normal wear and tear injuries. Nothing major so far. That's pretty good news. If you have been paying attention on Twitter today, bad news out of the Falcons camp. Conversely, Rondale Moore was taken off in a cart with one of those big, long inflatable braces on his leg. Hoping and praying that it's not as serious as it looks, but it sounds really bad. So hoping he gets up to speed quickly. But on the other side, the good news side at Purdue, only minor injuries so far. Football's a rough game. You kind of pray you get out of camp unscathed, but even the best of the best, if you're keeping one eye on the injury reports out of other camps, teams are it just happens. It just happens. Even if they wear the safety pads over their helmets, still can't stop some injuries, and hoping that Purdue can get through unscathed. But if they don't, they're in a lot different position than they were last year. I keep saying that, but I'm going to reiterate that today. Again, that depth is it's a much deeper team than it was a year ago. And you can see it not only in the guys that have played downs in college football, but also in the new guys, the newcomers. There are players there that can make an impact right away, and they sound and look like guys that can play Big Ten football right away. Coach Walters called strength and conditioning coach Kiro Small the best strength and conditioning coach in the world. A lot of you have liked what you've seen out of Coach Small on videos and elsewhere, and I think the strength and conditioning coach is extremely important to the team. If nothing else, these guys came out of off-season workouts looking the part. I keep marveling at that. Purdue just looks so much bigger, stronger. They look longer. Everything is on the positive there for Coach Small, who is. It's funny how different the the importance of the strength and conditioning coach is now versus, let's say, 15 years ago. That coach is almost a head coach, a quasi head coach during the off season. Extremely important, and Coach Walters loves what he's been doing. He says Card looks resolute and makes early reads. If you've watched some highlights, sadly, a lot of the highlights that have come out have been Card getting picked off. And the comments on Instagram specifically are pretty mean to old HUD, and that's a shame because that's going to happen. And I think that's noteworthy to see interceptions, to see defensive backs making plays. But Walters likes what he sees out of Card, as does Coach Harrell. They both say he's got a good grasp on the offense. Someplace that there's not a guy, I'll come back to that in a second. There is one place where it looks like a clear winner or a clear differentiation or improvement hasn't happened yet in camp, which isn't the best news. I'll talk about it in a second, but it's not at quarterback. Card looks the part. They are moving around who's taking snaps with the twos, because they're just trying to figure out, will it be Brown or Brownie, or will it be Davila, the true freshman? Let's see. He called and this goes back to the picture that I put on today's QuickCast. He calls the wide receivers tall, explosive, and strong. And if you go and look at these guys on paper, you're going to quickly notice a theme of 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and 6'5" guys even. Purdue has a lot of big possession receivers, and the guys that aren't big possession receivers are still guys that can go up and get the ball at the high point. That's a big advantage, especially against smaller defensive backs. On the other side of the ball, Purdue, of course, Nyland Green looks very good. Walters got pretty annoyed with a member of the media, I don't know who it was, who asked a question about why Green was having problems, picking up the system or something like that. And he said, "How many practices have you been here for?" Which is funny because he knew the answer, because he doesn't let anybody in for a lot of practice time. And his whole point was Green looks pretty good so far. And if you just look at pictures, Green is number 2. He is 6'2" or 6'3", depending on where you see where he's listed. He looks like an NFL defensive back. And according to Walters, he's playing like a big-time defensive back. He calls the defense athletic and long. This is something that I've talked about even before Walters started talking about this a couple weeks ago. I was talking about how the defensive ends, the tackles, linebackers, and the guys on the outside all look very long, and he continues with that. One thing that I thought was really neat and telling, he talks about the special teams coach getting promoted from inside. He was the tight ends coach last year. And he says one thing he wants to do is he'd rather find his kind of guys from his staff than somebody with a perfect resume. And that to me it's a pretty wise thing, especially from such a young coach. A lot of times people in normal business get just enamored by credentials. And Walters, I think, prefers having his type of people around him because he knows he's going to be spending a lot of time with these guys. So he's going to try to promote from within whenever applicable, I think, in the future. And currently, I thought that was a big telling thing from a CEO type of guy, even a young CEO that was pretty wise, in my opinion. He says, okay, so here's the battle that bothered me more than anything. The battle between Porath, the freshman place kicker, and last year's kicker, Freehill. Freehill made 55% of his kicks last year. Purdue was I think the worst field goal kicking team in the Big Ten. He said there's no clear place kicker yet. The battle continues, I think is the wording he used. That bothers me a bit. But I don't think it matters unless you have games that are close. So you've got to be in position to win games for the kicker to really, really matter. Let's hope some things start getting better in a hurry. I think it's an awful lot to ask a freshman to come out right away and be the clear winner in a battle, especially for a guy when he's battling a fifth-year senior, as is Freehill. So hopefully something happens there. Either Freehill maybe they just both look good. I don't know. I didn't see any percentages. I haven't seen stats coming out of the kicking game during practice, but I thought that was telling. Let's see. There is an upcoming scrimmage tomorrow for Purdue football. That's interesting. That's a Thursday scrimmage, not a Saturday, and that will probably tell us a lot. I don't know how much media coverage there will be, but if I hear anything, see anything that's noteworthy, I'll be right back here to tell you about it. But before I do that, I wanted to talk about specifically the freshmen that have the attention of Coach Walters to close this thing out. And I thought this was noteworthy. So he mentioned guys kind of in rapid succession. So I went back and looked at each one and wanted to talk about them to you guys and see what you thought about this. And you can comment below. You can comment in the live comments, whatever you want. But here are the guys that Coach Walters thinks have stood out, and these were all off the top of his head. I thought that was impressive. But he mentioned Shamar Rigby, who's 6'3", 187-pound wide receiver out of St. Pete, Florida. And again, another big receiver, another big body. If you look at this receiving core, we may not know a lot about the some of the guys that are coming in because we haven't seen them as Purdue fans. There's a lot of guys in here who can play the game right away. Again, if you look at pictures and you look at video, Edrin looks like the real deal. He's number 7. If you look at those pictures, you look at those videos, he pops up over and over and over. I think he's going to be the number 1 receiver. It looks like him or Smith to me, but we'll see. Another guy that got Walter's opinion or Walter's attention is Smiley Bradford, 6 foot tall, 195-pound defensive back out of East St. Louis. He mentioned Traymar Harris, 6'1", 182-pound wide receiver out of Cincy. You can see a theme right away. You've got some skilled guys that got his attention right away, and then he gets into the trenches. And here's another trend you're going to see is, again, bodies right away that look like they're ready to play. D'Amico Kennedy, 6'2", 291-pound defensive lineman out of Lexington. Jaden Ball, 6'5", 300-pound offensive lineman out of Carroll, Ohio. Caleb Irving, 6'1", 298-pound defensive lineman out of Texas. And finally, Max Perry, who's an absolute behemoth of a man, true freshman, 6'4", 311-pounder out of Colorado. The point of this, I wanted to look at this and then I wanted to compare it to last year. Last year, if you look at all season, I went through and looked at the true freshmen that made impact and got on the field, made 2 deeps. You had Thieneman, of course, who, I don't know if you've heard of Dylan Thieneman. He's pretty good at football. And if you've seen Dylan Thieneman, I noted it last QuickCast. I'll say it again. Holy moly, does he look the part. Dylan Thieneman was a true freshman. He played every game, started every game. Derek Rogers started half the season. Will Helt out of Carmel. There's my thumbs up. Will Helt out of Carmel. May have not looked the part last year. He does now. He's filled out nicely, but he is long. He's athletic, can do a lot of things on the edge. And then Jerron Tibbs, the wide receiver out of Cathedral that I've been singing his praises since he got on campus. The point is, this year, there will be more of a chance for freshmen to get on the field and make an impact, but I doubt it. That's the funny thing. You have all these guys that have his attention, but at the same time, you just have a more skilled bunch, a deeper bunch. So if a freshman gets on the field, it's noteworthy. One name you don't see on there is Kerryon Grant, the 4-star defensive back out of Tennessee. Part of the reason you don't see him on there is he's one of those guys who has suffered injuries, small injuries, who have kept him out of practice. Hopefully we'll hear he's in the scrimmage tomorrow. If not, I haven't seen the practice report today, but hopefully we start hearing some things about Kerryon Grant. But one thing I would say is it's not how you start, it's how you finish. We've seen this before where a guy shines in camp or even shines in spring, and then when the season comes around, he never does anything. But those type of guys sometimes get my attention because I'm tuned into spring ball or tuned into the camp reports like you are. I'd rather have guys finish strong and be really noteworthy at the end of the season. So hopefully Purdue has that. Some of you guys are here live. I appreciate you being here. It is middle of the day on a Wednesday, after all. But Ted Berkey is first. As usual, Ted says, good afternoon. How are you, Ted? Karen Grulock says, made it live. Good to see you, Karen. And glad you're here. I think Karen and I have traded direct messages a couple times, and she's missed it, but I'm glad she's here. Alfred Dowd says, hey, Rye, I think this is I don't know if it's my dad or my mom using the account, but I just try to base this on what I'm reading. I already think it's my mom, but we'll see. Alfred Dowd says, boiler up, hammer down. Appreciate it. Glad mom or dad and dad are watching or listening. If it's my mom, she's already bailed. If it's my dad, he's still listening, so we'll see about that. Dick Stillwagon says, boiler up, harnessing my inner Matt Painter, smoking ribs in the offset smoker. Now, I believe what you're talking about there, an offset smoker is probably a double barrel smoker, right? Where the smoking happens in one, and it's indirect, right? Indirect heat. longer, slower, lower cook. That's the way to do it, Ted. I don't have one of those now. I used to have one of those. Now I've got a pellet grill, which if you don't have a pellet grill, holy moly, and you like to smoke meat, they're so smart. It's so easy. I would highly suggest investing in a pellet grill if you're a Matt Painter wannabe. Granted, Coach Paint, I believe he's got a custom pull behind trailer type smoker. I think it's probably more than my pellet smoker. I'm just going to go ahead and say he probably didn't buy it. Well, I know he didn't buy it at Lowe's like I did. Ted Berge says depth is better. We're much healthier to start. Yeah, really, really good sign. That health is a real good thing. The depth is good. The size is good. Purdue is just in a better position this August as compared to last. Chris Harder, my good pal, says, howdy from San Diego. Chris is a jet setter, literally and figuratively. Today, he checks in from San Diego. Dick says, who'll be the captains? Has that been announced? I do not believe it's been announced. I do believe it'll be announced. My guess, I mean, it seems like right after that scrimmage, that'd be a good time to do it. If I were a betting man, I'd say Dylan Thieneman will be a captain. I would say Hud Card will be one. I would say Gus Hartwig will be one. I would say Kieran Jenkins is going to be one. Those guys that represented at Media Day, that's a pretty good start. And then on top of that, there's some other guys that, I mean, I know Thieneman wasn't there at Media Day just because of his youth, but I'm betting. I am almost positive that Thieneman will be one of the captains. Dick Stillwagon says Rigby should be sponsored by Big B Coffee. Yes, see, Dick, you have the same idea that I do, and I love it, that getting the pithy name tie-in with the sponsor. I used to do this all the time with IndyCar racers. I would come up with a guy that either the name rhymed or was very, very, very close. I used to think that, I don't know if I ever told you this, Takuma Sato should have been sponsored by Steak and Shake. And even though Ray Hall had Steak and Shake, but that was Tacoma Sack. Remember, they used to have that on the Steak and Shake. So that was same type of thinking. John Best says, hope to see you next week at Freshman Movement. John, perhaps we will see each other. I can tell you the way they do this, John, I am excited to see this. This is my first move-in for one of my kids. I'm only going to have 2 shots at it, but the way they do it quickly before Boiler Gold Rush, and that's just kind of like you pull up to the curb, I'm told, and they just get everything up to the room very fast, and you're kind of going through an assembly line. Like I said, this is I'm excited to see this. So hope to see you, John, and maybe we could see each other at AJ's. That's what I'm trying to get that angle to get my wife and my brother and sister-in-law to enjoy a little AJ's after a tough move-in, a tough, warm, sweaty move-in. But we'll see. That's my angle anyway. Joseph Fye says, you heard it here first. Purdue goes bowling in year 2 under Walters. I did not hear it from you first, but I like what you're saying. Boilermakers is going to knock off a top 10 team. To get to that 6-win mark, it's going to take a very unexpected win. And I agree with your angle there. I've talked about this before. I wish they could get rid of the Boilermakers moniker altogether and just be good, right? I think that's what we'd all want, but at least being known as Boilermakers is being known as something. So having an identity as a team that is terrifying to play for the bigs in the league, that's awesome. And if they can knock somebody down or wrong, I'm here for it. I have heard a couple people saying Purdue's going to go bowling. In fact, if you read some of the comments in different videos, you'll see things like people are saying Purdue's going to win 8 games. And I keep marveling at this because 8 wins in this schedule. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, even look at the comments from my last QuickCast. I can't remember right away. Somebody said 8 wins. If Walters wins 8 games this year, if Purdue wins 8 games this year, and you can quote me here, you can say you heard it here first, he will be on a very short list of truly elite programs to take their job, and we'll be looking for a new coach in December. So part of you wants to say, let's get some growth, let's get up to that 6 or 7 wins, and maybe not get all the way to 8, because that would be terrifying, again, to go through it so quickly. That said, I'm here for it. If Purdue can get to 8 wins and Coach Walters is on short list, then it puts the ball back in in Purdue's court to keep him here, do what they can to keep him here, fight the good fight, whatever it is. But Purdue will be fighting some truly powerful programs for Walter's services at that point. I can almost guarantee it. So we'll see what happens. John continues. Joe, pardon me. Sorry, Joseph. Continues, says it's what we do. So yeah, it is what Purdue does, but I think it's better to just be good. And Jeff Brom almost got to the point where Purdue was just good, right? We're right on the edge, getting to 8 wins. To me, calling a team that's an 8-win team a Boilermaker is really not much of a fair name. You're just good at that point, right? I think we can agree with that. So I'm sorry to steal your thunder. My bad. But thank you to everyone tuning in live, and thank you to those listening on delay, both here on YouTube and on the Believe Network and audio. Appreciate all that. Hope your afternoon goes swimmingly. God bless you. Hammer down. Talk to you soon. See ya.